Welcome back to Old School Sports and our OOTP 23 playthrough of the Kansas City Royals. We are midway through the 2024 season. The Royals are 42 and 40. The only good news is that our Pythagorean differential is the worst in the league at -6, and our run scored differential is actually the best in the entire American League. And second in all of baseball to only the Padres. So there is reason to suspect that hopefully we will play better over the second half of the season, which would be big. We not only want to have a winning record this year, it's about time for us to get in the playoffs. And right now we are one game behind in the race for one of the American League wildcard spots. So month of July is obviously going to be a busy month, as it always is, with international amateur free agents coming up, followed by the amateur draft, followed by the trade deadline. Would like to add a little talent to help the team. We don't have a ton of money left for free agents, so we'll have to be creative, I think, in how we bring anyone on board if we do make a trade. At the end of our last episode, we kind of took a quick look at our team statistics, and we're having a good year. We're generally in the top 6 in most batting categories, and we're even better in most pitching categories. So there's reason to hope that that 42 and 40 record is going to turn around. You can see a slow start in March, but then good in April and May. But June, a 9 and 15 record thus far in the month of June has kind of set us back a little bit. Hopefully we can continue to play better and play up to that Pythagorean record, because 48 and 34, we would certainly be securely in the playoffs if we were to be kind of playing at that kind of pace for the season. And as we get to July 1st and the amateur free agents, we're a half game out in the AL Central, second place. According to our scout, at least, David Rocha of Venezuela stands out. You can see he's got a really nice batting profile, a little bit of power, but great contact, gap power, and avoid strikeout potential. Doesn't have a great personality, so question whether he's going to fulfill all of his promise, but he is durable as far as injury proneness. He's potentially extremely versatile defensively. So a lot to like with Rocha, except for the personality. Kyu-Min Hwang from North Korea. Wow, North Korea. I didn't realize they played baseball in North Korea. He is a decent prospect. Looks like he could be a above average hitter if everything develops, but also not the best personality in the world for the young outfielder. Eddie Mojica from the Dominican does have a strong work ethic, which is good. Almost 17 years old. Looks like he could have a decent batting profile. Not going to really have much of a position to play, though. He's a first baseman, maybe a third baseman, maybe a left fielder. And then the last of the 3-star potential prospects, at least according to our scout, is Orlando Soto. Good personality with high leader and loyalty, fast, good base runner, good at bunting. Has potential to be a pretty decent hitter, just not a lot of power. And looks like a potentially decent outfielder defensively also. It's a crapshoot. I actually think we're going to go with Orlando Soto. I kind of like him. He's got probably one of the better personalities of the 4 players. He's also durable, pretty good intangibles. If he really develops as far as his avoiding strikeouts, his contact, and his gap power with that speed, he could be a pretty interesting offensive weapon, and he'd be an okay major league center fielder potentially, would be really good in left field, and definitely can play right field well also. But going to give him a shot. Just think there might be a little more competition for some of the other players, so we will go ahead and offer the full $5 million, the maximum that we can, to Mr. Soto, and we'll see if maybe we can get him locked up. And some potential injuries cropping up. Left fielder Jeff McNeil day-to-day with wrist soreness for a couple of weeks. He's already fragile. Something a different player I might let play through, but probably going to be cautious and put him on the IL. And then Trevor Rogers, let's hope that that's not a serious injury. That could be a crippling blow if we lose our ace, although it's kind of crazy when you've won 45 games and your ace only has one of those victories. But it's been a strange year for Trevor Rogers, but hopefully he will not have too serious of an injury and can really contribute down the stretch as we try to get this Royals team into the playoffs. So we are going to send McNeil to the IL just to be as cautious as possible with him. Want to play the long game here. Would have probably brought back Emmanuel Rivera. Actually, wrist tendonitis, impact for only 1 day. He's certainly capable of coming back up. Daniel Cabrera, though, has been up for us off and on a little bit this year. And then we signed as a minor league contract Brad Miller, who is also hitting pretty well at Omaha. He may be the one to bring up right now. Give the 34-year-old a chance to play. He's pretty versatile defensively. Him and Cabrera are hitting. Cabrera's having a nice year, though, and he's more of a potential future player for us. So we're going to bring Cabrera back up to the Major League club. And then hopefully we'll not have a long-term injury with Trevor Rogers. And unfortunately, we do have a long-term injury with Trevor Rogers. Surgery to remove bone chips. He's out for 4 months, so his season is over. So in his first year with us, 18 games started, went 1-5, did strike out 103 over 89 innings. His ERA plus was 102. His FIP minus was 77, and his Sierra was 3.23. He was extremely unlucky, as indicated by that 1-5 record, but clearly we're hoping for more from him this year. He will be back with us next year. Excuse me, going to be going through arbitration this offseason, but a huge blow for the team to lose our ace here as we are trying to make it into the playoffs. Only positive news is that Jose Suarez, we can bring him right back up from his rehab assignment down at AAA, but clearly a huge blow to the team to lose Rogers for the rest of the season. It absolutely weakens our pitching staff, and just a real bummer because I felt like we could make the playoffs this year, and of course there's no reason that we can't do it without him, but he was going to be a big component of this team getting over the hump and getting into the playoffs, so not having him for the final 3 months of the season is definitely a bummer. And there are a few big-time pitchers on the trade block already. Chris Sale, Tyler Glasnow, and Zach Wheeler, although Wheeler's got a strained abdominal out for 1 to 2 weeks, so that shouldn't be too serious. Still having a nice year for the Phillies. We've got to get someone to basically retain all of the salary, and I'm sure they're going to be looking for a lot for him, so I don't think there's anything that we can do there. Yet we're not going to trade you Bobby Witt Jr., Tyler Glasnow signed for another couple years, making big money. Not having a great season and doesn't have as good of a profile as Wheeler, obviously, but let's just see if there's even any point in talking about it. Yeah, again, Bobby Witt Jr. is the only one that's going to get us him. And then Chris Sale, looks like he went from Boston to Pittsburgh, having a rough year. 83 ERA plus, 115 FIP minus, making $27.5 million this year with a $20 million option for next year. How did he end up on the Pirates? Traded in exchange for Henry Davis, the young catcher, and Doug Nikhazy, the young starting pitcher. That was a pretty good trade by the Red Sox to get rid of an aging Chris Sale. I would think they would have to be asking a little less for him. Yeah, the issue is that we can definitely put a trade together to get him, but I just don't know. They can only retain 5% of his salary, apparently, or they're only willing to retain that much. So definitely nothing we can do right now to try to replace Trevor Rogers. Hopefully over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, there'll be some new players potentially available on the trade block, or we can do a search for some others. But we'll see what the team looks like over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully this Rogers injury doesn't completely derail the season for us. And we did get some good news. Orlando Soto signed the minor league or the international free agent deal with us. So happy to have him on board. Glad that we got one of the players that we thought was the best available. So that is positive. Kike Hernandez, finger sprain. He's a little banged up. All-star voting final results. Let's see. Do we have any starters? We don't really even have anyone who was in the mix. Kind of surprising that even at third base, Bobby Witt Jr. wasn't in the top 3. It'll be interesting to see who our all-stars end up being, but certainly did not have any players getting a lot of votes. But let's take a look at the actual rosters. Chris Bubich has split time between starting and relieving for us, but having a really nice season. 3.31 ERA, 127 ERA plus, and an 83 FIP minus. Obviously, with the injury to Rogers, he's going to perhaps have an even more prominent role going forward. Nicky Lopez, shortstop, who started the year on the IL, batting .324 with a 121 OPS plus, an excellent defensive player. So good to see Lopez get the first All-Star nod of his career. But that appears to be it for the Kansas City Royals. So 2 All-Stars this year, and Bobby Witt Jr. is not among them. He made it as a rookie, and he made it last season. Having, I guess, kind of a down year this year, but still pretty productive. Not a bad season by any stretch of the imagination. 13 homers, 54 driven in. It's the .245 batting average, and his OPS has slipped to 737. So his OPS plus is only 103 this season, and his WRC plus is 100. So he's been pretty close to a league average hitter. Hopefully he can turn it on in the second half of the season and help us score some more runs. And we made it to the amateur draft, still in second place in the AL Central. Record is 48-44. You can see we're 2.5 out for the wild card right now, which is not optimal. Actually closer in the division, just a game and a half behind the Twins. So definitely bummed about the loss of Trevor Rogers, but we've got to suck it up. The issue is just that we've only got about, even less now, so we must have spent some other random money that was unexpected, so we just don't have a lot of money to take on a contract here at the trade deadline, even if we could put a deal together. Just not sure how much we're going to get, so it's probably going to be reliant on leveraging what's going on in our minor league system to push us over. Zach DeCenzo, young infielder, has potentially really good power. He's hitting only .233 in Omaha this year, but with 11 home runs and 317 at-bats, maybe that bat can help us at some point. We also just moved up Peyton Williams, who was our 4th-round draft pick last season, to get his first taste of AAA. Can see he hit .274 with 19 dingers at AA this year. Another player who's potentially great home run power. Doesn't really have a position to play, unfortunately, but both of those bats could potentially help us down the stretch. And then we're going to have to look for some help in the pitching staff. Austin Roberts, having a fantastic season at Omaha. 1.28 ERA, 3.16 ERA plus. Incredible stuff, good movement and control, and 3 great pitches. He absolutely has the ability to help us out of the bullpen. The issue is that it might be good to get a starter also. Will Klein, another relief pitcher who has done well at Omaha with a 0.47 ERA and 68 strikeouts and 38 and a third innings, 8.59 ERA plus and a 37 FIP minus, Sierra of 0.95. Absolutely could help us. As far as a starting pitcher, though, we've got a lot of kind of 4A kind of pitchers down there. Mackenzie Gore has just never really developed as a 5.54 ERA this year. I think if we were to bring somebody up, I just don't know who it would be. I don't think we've got a starter ready right now, unfortunately, at the AAA level. Tyler Bosma and Spencer Bauer, who are the 2 top pitching prospects in our organization. Bosma's going to miss the entire year with elbow surgery that he had last October, and then his return has been delayed, so he's not going to help. Spencer Bauer had pitched well in 2 games at AAA. He may be the one that we need to bring up, but he's coming back from a partially torn labrum, his 1 week to go. But the almost 24-year-old may end up being all we can bring up to kind of help the rotation with the loss of Rogers. So we're going to keep an eye on the trade block after the draft and see if there's anything we can do. But it may be more a matter of just reinforcing from AAA and hoping that we've got enough there in terms of a couple of bats, a couple relievers, and perhaps Bauer, when he gets back from his injury, if he does well in a few starts in AAA, that may be how we fortify the roster as we try to make this playoff push here. And looking at the rookie draft, we've got the 16th pick. We dropped 1 spot from number 15 in the draft lottery. Let's see. There's a couple big-time starter potential. Couple of guys with 4-star potential as starters. Looking at all players, there's some definite high upside players out there in the draft this year. I'm guessing none of them are going to be around by the time it gets to us, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, not shockingly, the highest upside is allegedly 3-star players, at least according to our scout. If we were to see what the OOTP Scouting Association says, they are higher on a few different players, a few more players, Kelly, Harris, Loonsman, and Woods, but we are going to base it off of Travis Lee, given our respect for him, and Alex Kunzel, who is one of the 4 players that he think has 3-star potential, is who he recommends us picking. The left fielder looks like he definitely has potential to have an above-average bat. He is a left fielder with mediocre range, a little bit better than average error rating, and not much of an arm. Definitely can't play anywhere except left field. You could put him out in right, but his arm isn't going to be that great. So it doesn't really have a defensive spot, but certainly looks like he could be a plus hitter. Looking at a couple of the other top prospects, Mason Kelly, interesting pitching prospect with potentially 5 pitches, already has decent stuff, already has really good control. The issue is that his movement is only a 30, and our scout thinks the best it can be is a 40. He's a 22-year-old fly ball pitcher who's throwing already only 90 to 92 miles an hour. It seems like things probably got to come together about perfectly for him to not give up a ton of home runs at the major league level. Another starter, Noah Lewis, a little bit more of a balanced profile here. Fly ball pitcher, almost 22 years old, throwing 88 to 90 miles an hour. I just don't know that either of those guys is the answer. And then James Tibbs, right fielder, great personality, high leadership, loyalty, adaptability, and work ethic, good influence on his teammates. Just doesn't look like he is quite as good a bat as Alex Kunzel. And Kunzel's also a high school player, probably a little more volatility with him, but he's batted 400 or higher for 3 straight years in high school. We are going to follow the suggestion of our scout, and his bonus demand is also reasonable at $3 million, which is a lot less than slot. Save us a little bit of money there. So we are going to go ahead and draft Alex Kunzel in the first round of the 2024 amateur draft. Second round here, and a scouting director is recommending the third baseman Aiden Harris. Looks like he could be a bit above average hitter at the major league level. Also a high school player, similar to our first round pick. First and third baseman, corner outfielder seems to be his defensive position. I guess you could play him at second base or center field in a pinch if you really needed to, but you wouldn't feel great about doing it by any stretch of the imagination. Doesn't seem like a bad player to potentially go with, but we're gonna just take a look through and just see if there's any unicorns that may be out there with a lot of upside potential. So looking at batting potential here, Billy Amick with 65 power potential, 45 contact, 50 gap. Actually, our guy Aiden Harris stands out with 55, 60, and 60. Billy Amick, 21 years old, not very good work ethic. Don't think he's the answer. Looking at pitching potential, Michael Foltz, 23-year-old starter. Not great work ethic. He's almost 24 years old. Has good stuff, going to have good movement. His control's not great. 3 solid pitches. But I think Aiden Harris is the way to go. So that's who we are going to pick in our second round choice. Offer him the slot and move on. Moving on to the third round. Scouting director recommends Derek Bender, a 20-year-old catcher. Decent personality with good leadership and intelligence. Good home run power, great eye. Not great catcher ability, which isn't optimal. Could play corner outfield potentially down the line. We'll keep him in mind as we do a little more digging, but there may be something more interesting than Bender out there. And I don't know if he qualifies as a unicorn, but we may have found the closest thing we're going to find. Starting pitcher Matthew Champion, 19-year-old high school senior. Can see he is not going to make it as a starting pitcher, I don't think. But if you look at his batting ratings, he's got potential for above average contact, gap power, and power. He is a intriguing prospect as a batter. Kind of someone who can play a lot of different positions, none of them all that well, but could certainly be a right fielder, left fielder. You could play him at third with that 60 arm. Marginal first baseman at just 6 feet tall, but he has got at this point the best potential of any hitter out there. So I think, what's he looking for? It says signability is impossible, so that's certainly not optimal. Let's see if we can find out exactly how much money he is looking for. Yeah, the demand is that he's impossible to sign. Probably why he's still lingering out there. But I guess the worst case scenario is if we draft him in the third round and we don't sign him, we get the opportunity to get an extra pick next season. And we were well under slot with our first round pick, so we've got a little bit of extra money to play with. I think it's unlikely we're going to be able to pay enough to get him signed, but he's the best player available right now. I love that batting profile. If we draft him, his starting pitching career is going to end. And actually, if we sign him, we're going to draft him right now. But if we sign him, his starting pitching career will end, and we will look to turn him into a hopefully big-time hitter for us down the line. So we're going to keep moving forward with the draft now. If there's something interesting that we see, we'll report on it. Otherwise, we're going to kind of close out the rest of the draft here. Joe Savino is the recommendation. Haven't drafted a starter yet. 23-year-old from Elon University. Certainly an option. Who else is out there as far as starters? Savino's got as much potential as anyone out there according to our scout. So we will go ahead and draft him also. And here in the 5th round, Jaden Woods is the last 2.5-star potential starter who's out there. Good stuff, 3 good pitches. The question is whether he's ever going to have enough movement or control, but he's a lefty. Easy signability with a low bonus demand, which increases the chance that we can maybe flip champion and actually get him signed, although it's going to take a ton of money. So we are going to meet his low demand and bring him on board also. Well, we've made it through the draft. You can see that of our top 5 selections, Aiden Harris wanted slot, and then Alex Kenzel, Joe Savino, and Jaden Woods were all looking for less than slot. So that gives us the opportunity to try to sign Matthew Champion. It's going to be incredibly hard. Bonus significantly above 9,500 to consider signing. He's going to go to college. This is our last shot at signing him, and we've only got a budget of $76.89, $496 left for signing players. So it's going to be tough. I guess there's another $766,000 we could potentially throw in there. We'll give it a shot. Like I said, the worst case scenario is that we'll get a replacement pick for him next year, and at least we shot our shot with a big time prospect. So we are going to go and we're going to offer him every penny that we can. He says we've got to be way over $9.5 million, so it's probably not going to work. Found out a couple years ago that we did offer $12.5 million to someone looking for $9.5 million, and it did get them signed. Nazir Mule was the one who signed that. Was actually a similar situation a few years ago with a pitcher that we wanted to turn into an offensive player. So unfortunately, we don't have the money this time to offer quite as much. Let's see if ownership will let us put it up to $8.5 million. Yep, over our draft budget. So will he let us go a little bit higher? Probably not. Yep, so the most we're going to be able to do is what we've budgeted for. So probably not going to sign him, but like I said, worst case scenarios, we'll get another pick next year that we can use. And a small piece of good news, Matthew Champion signed to that offer that we made him. So he was supposedly impossible to sign, and we ended up signing him for almost $2 million less than the $9.5 million he said that he needed a lot more. So interesting sign that when you put some big money in front of people, their plans may change. So we are going to... we do not want to use him as a two-way player. We actually just want to turn him into I'd say we're going to try to have him be a right fielder right now. So we are going to set him to a right fielder. see if he can develop into a decent player for us. So good to have Champion on board. That was some good news. The bad news is that this season is starting to spiral out of control with the loss of Trevor Rogers. We are 2-8 over our last 10. We have a losing record now at 50-52, 7 games out in the division, and we're 2.5 out, but behind a number of teams for that third wild card spot. So, got to turn things around and turn them around soon if this Royals team is going to have any chance at the playoffs this year. So we are closing in on the end of the month of July. We're 53-56, 8 games out in the AL Central, 4.5 games out for the wild card. Our run differential of plus 66 is still the second best in the entire American League. And our Pythagorean record of 61-48 says that we should be the best team in the American League. And instead, we're headed towards a losing season. You can see we've been 11-17 in one-run games. So looks like that is, other than the Red Sox, I think that's the worst record in the AL in one-run games. So, and we're 5-12 since the All-Star break. So this season is really getting away from us. We're not going to give up yet, though. Going to try to see if there's anything here on June or July 29th on the trade block that is interesting, and see if maybe, even if someone's not on the trade block, see if there's anything that we can possibly pull together to give us a chance to compete to not only have a winning record this year, but hopefully still get into that wild card, which has been a key goal of ours. Looking at the top starter out there, who's Zach Wheeler. We could actually add him, and we could get the Phillies to take his entire contract, which we would need them to do. The issue is we would need to send not just Tyler Bosma, but also Spencer Bauer or Bobby Witt Jr. So essentially, if we added Tyler Bosma and Spencer Bauer, that would be the two top starting pitching prospects that we have left at this point. So just not something we're going to do. Obviously, Bosma, who is really struggling to recover from that elbow surgery, has slipped down to being considered the number 72 prospect, but really that's all made up since he hasn't pitched since late in the 2023 season at this point. If we could get something for him or built around him, we would certainly think about it, but I don't know that we trade away Spencer Bauer now. He has come back from his injury and he's pitched 2 more games in Omaha. I think we're going to need to bring him up to the major league roster and probably hope that he is the difference maker that we're looking for. He's the number 25 prospect in the game, got 4 pitches, although really only his fastball and his slider are plus pitches. Good stuff, good movement, not great control. You see he's walked 12 batters in 16 1/3 innings in AAA this year. I just don't think he's the answer yet, but he may be about the best thing that we can come up with, since we're probably not going to be able to pull off a trade for a top starter. And we could actually pull off a trade for the 35-year-old Chris Sale. The issue is that the way we would pull off that trade is we'd have to give up Trevor Rogers to make it work, or Nicky Lopez, MJ Melendez, or Bobby Witt Jr., and then we'd still need them to keep the salary. But it's funny that it could actually work with Trevor Rogers, but he's almost a decade younger. Hopefully we'll be healthier when he comes back, better personality. I just, we're not going to trade Trevor Rogers for a rental of a 34-year-old Chris Sale. Just not going to happen. Similar situation if we were to trade for Dinelson Lamet, Nicky Lopez, Jeff McNeil, Trevor Rogers, or Bobby Witt Jr. are what we would need to give up. So I just don't think it makes any sense to try to rent one of these top pitchers for a couple of months, given that we've got a pretty tough situation to overcome if we're going to try to get into the playoffs. And I mean, there's a few good relief pitchers available, but as we talked about earlier in this episode, I feel like we've got some pretty good relief pitchers at AAA that we can bring up if we need them. So, and then the best hitters out there are, Kyle Schwarber, who he would certainly help us a little, but, not going to be a difference maker, I don't think. And I'm guessing the Phillies are still going to want a lot for him. Yeah, we got to trade Bobby Witt Jr. to get him. So, I don't think we can really do anything at the trade deadline. We've only got $240,000 to spend, and I don't want to mortgage the future. It's got potential for this to be a real disappointing season for us. I don't think we'll get fired. It would just be kind of early in the game for that to happen, but we're not on pace to achieve a winning record. We're not hitting as many home runs as ownership wants, and we are doing good with our attendance goal. But right now we're on pace to have the worst winning percentage we've had in our 3 seasons as general manager of the team. So we're just not playing up to expectations, but hopefully we can do better as we get into August and September and maybe bring up some of the talent from AAA. And Austin Roberts' profile is just exploding here in AAA this season. 182 ERA, and you can see off the chart stuff, good movement, good control, 3 incredible pitches. We want to get him up to the major league roster, and we're going to see if Will Klein is banged up with a strained hamstring, but would like to bring him up in short order. And then I think I kind of think we've got to bring up Spencer Bauer and just try to see if maybe we can catch lightning in a bottle with the 23-year-old. Maybe give him one more start down in AAA just to see how it goes. But we need to bring up Austin Roberts. And so our pitching staff, there's no obvious player to send down. The team has been doing okay, but Amir Garrett and Scott Barlow are 2 of our more aged players, 31 and 32 years old. And then actually Nick Anderson is the oldest pitcher we've got at 34. Nice profile. He hasn't pitched all that well for us this season. The issue with him is he's looking for $9 million a year. He's going to be a free agent. So I hate to lose him, but between Anderson, Barlow is also I believe, going to be a free agent. Yeah, he's a free agent after this year, and he's looking for $5.5 million a year, which is still a lot for us to be paying for a reliever. And then with Amir Garrett, he's been our lefty specialist. We've got a team option for $2.7 million for him next season. Has not been nearly as effective this year. Still fine, a 47 FIP minus is really good, but he's only pitched 22 2/3 innings, and you can see that while he still has really good stuff, his movement and control aren't as stand out as they maybe used to be. So we may see if there's anything we can get for some of these players. Probably more prospects than someone to help us this season, but don't necessarily want to just dump them, but would like to open up a few spots on our pitching staff for some of the young pitchers to see if maybe they can be difference makers for us down the stretch. And there's actually a lot of interest in Scott Barlow. Most of it is in the form of 26-year-old relief pitchers, but definitely players that are useful. Wonder what if we threw in both of our big relievers who are veterans with both Nick Anderson and Scott Barlow and we wanted to look for a prospect package. I'm guessing it's not going to be anything overwhelming, but is there someone who really needs to bolster their bullpen for the off season? And there's some packages out there. We'll take a look at them. Maybe there's something to do here. Well, there's not too much out there for the players we're thinking about trading, but it may be time to move Amir Garrett on. I don't think we're going to exercise that $2.7 million option for him next season. He's 32 years old now. We're not getting a ton with him from this package from the Mets. Cesar Berbesi, a mediocre infield prospect. Tyler Epstein, the exact same thing. And then Isaac Nunez, probably the best prospect of them, but really not much. The point of doing this contract is just if we're sure, or this trade is just if we're sure we're not going to bring back Garrett, get something for him, and open up a spot to bring up a pitcher from AAA. So see if maybe the Mets will throw in somebody a little better than some of these guys. So I'll play around with that a little bit. Cesar Rivera, number 34 prospect in the game. They're certainly not gonna give him to us. Yeah, there's nothing we can do that would make him be included. But even if we can just get one player that looks like he's got a little bit better potential, it would make it feel a little better. Gerald Ogando. They would sign off if we include Gerald Ogando, so that's something to think about. So we're going to go ahead and make this trade with the Mets. We'll also get Gerald Ogando, another reliever. It's basically just to clear up a little bit of space. And we're going to be moving on from Amir Garrett this offseason. And that will allow us to bring Austin Roberts, outstanding prospect, up to hopefully bolster our major league pitching staff. Hopefully he can pitch some more innings than Amir Garrett was and make a big impact in those innings. You can see he's already going to slot right into our setup role. Actually, he might go into closer. I had Aaron Ashby kind of slotted into that closer role, but particularly given he's a lefty, he could potentially take over for Amir Garrett. So let's see if we don't force him. The one thing that we don't want Matheny to be using Aaron Ashby in the rotation, so we may just have to force him. Yeah, see, he's going to put him right into the rotation, which, I mean, maybe we've got to do something, but it's just, you look back at how he was pitching in Milwaukee when they were using him in the rotation, and his results were just not good. So I think we are going to force Ashby to just be a reliever, and then see what the pitching staff looks like from Matheny's perspective when we do that. And he's going to be using Ashby and Dabovich as setup men, put Austin Roberts right into the closer role. So I'm okay with that. Other than that, I don't know if there's a trade for us to make. I guess, trading away Nick Anderson or Scott Barlow would be the other potential option. But we do have, in the case of Scott Kobos, he's still got 2 option years left. So there are relievers that we could send down to AAA. Dylan Coleman might be another one to think about. He's still got 3 option years left. He's pitched fine for us. Taylor Clark, we definitely don't really want in the starting rotation. he's got an option year left too, so it's not like we have to send anybody down. I guess the question is just, do we want to try to get something for Nick Anderson now? We're definitely not going to be paying him $9 million a year as a reliever. So maybe we get whatever we can for him at this point and then move on. And if we do decide to trade Nick Anderson, who's a really good reliever, although he's had a rough year for us this year, I think the best we can do is get Ricky Vanasco from the Padres. You can see he's got great stuff, great movement in 4 pitches. He's 25 years old, just finally spent a little time in the majors this year, although he still has 2 option years left. Issue with him is just whether he's going to have control or not, but he's an extreme ground ball pitcher who throws incredibly hard. The issue is just whether he's going to walk too many people. You can see in 32 2/3 innings with the Padres this year, 21 walks but 47 strikeouts. He's got some potential. And they're also willing to throw in $2.6 million, which isn't the worst thing in the world. We're not going to sign Nick Anderson for $9 million. So I think we're going to go ahead and complete this trade also. Fans aren't happy that he's moving on, but it is what it is. That'll give us another opportunity to bring another one of our young pitchers out of AAA shortly. Will Klein, will be the guy when he's back from that strained hamstring. But in the meantime, I think what we will do is Casey Kalich has been pretty rough this year. Mackenzie Gore is hurt. Jonathan Bolin has been okay, 27-year-old starter. I think that Bolin is the guy to bring up for just a little bit of time. And then, as I said, once Will Klein is healthy, I think we will give him a chance. And then obviously want to see another start out of Spencer Bauer down in AAA. He may be coming up soon shortly. So unfortunately not going to be anything that we're going to be able to really do at the trade deadline this year to help push us closer to the playoffs. Just got to hope that the team plays better and some of these youngsters that we brought up really make some big contributions down the stretch. So we've made it past the trade deadline and we are into August. Season is not going as planned. 54 and 57, 8 games out in the AL Central. Wild card situation, we are 4.5 out, have several teams that we would need to jump over. Our plus 69 run differential is tied for the best with the Astros in the American League. Our -9 difference between our record and our Pythagorean record is the biggest in the entire major leagues. We should be so much better than 54 and 57. Hopefully we can make up some of that gap here over the last couple months of the season, but it's definitely going to be hard to do without Trevor Rogers. So I can't say at 54 and 57 that the season is completely off the rails, but definitely was expecting to be in a better position than we are right now. Kind of looking at how this last month has gone. We thought 12 and 16 in June was bad, and then we were 9 and 16 in July. So just a really disappointing season, at least over these last couple of months. You can see we still have, by a lot of metrics, one of the top 4 or 5 offenses in the American League. And by a lot of metrics, we have one of the top 4 or 5 pitching staffs in the American League, and we have one of the best defenses in the American League. So it may end up just being one of those seasons where everything that could go wrong does go wrong. But we will find out for sure in our next episode when we finish up this 2024 season. Until then, thanks so much for watching. Love to hear your comments down below on what you think of the trades that we made, what we could have done differently to have this season going better. Always like to get the feedback and input. Until our next episode, thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.